And every generation has many tzaddikim and many rabbeim, but there's only one Moshe Rabbeinu. In the past, Klal Yisrael even had two kings sometimes. We had Malcha Yehuda and Malcha Yisrael. But I actually learned a mimer with my husband over Pesach, and it was saying that when Mashiach comes, we will only have one king. We'll all be united under one king. We'll be Melech HaMashiach. Now, the Lubavitcher Rebbe was a leader, a world leader, like no other. His concern and his care for every single Yid was in complete alignment with the role of Nasi and Reish B'nai Yisrael. His influence since Gimel Tammuz has been even greater and stronger than before, both amongst Jews and non-Jews alike around the globe. And his calling for each one of us to do all we can and make Mashiach a reality is the empowerment of the Nasi of the generation to Klal Yisrael. He gives us the kayach to fulfill the mission of this generation, which we are the seventh generation, the Dar Hashri of the Chabad lineage from the Baal HaTanya, and that is to actualize Mashiach's coming. This was the task that the Rebbe set out to fulfill because it was the shlichus that was given to him. And in 1951, when he assumed the leadership, he laid out the plan, and it was a much smaller crowd then, but this was something that our generation was tasked to do, to bring Geula, and it needs to be done by each and every one of us. That was said already in 1951. So I guess we needed a reminder on Chav Ches Nisan and the other Sikha that was, I think, from Mem Zayin that was shared there as well. There's a very interesting story that was told by former Israeli ambassador Yehuda Avner. I'm sure many of you have heard before. My father-in-law always used to say a story is worth repeating. So Prime Minister Menachem Begin had come to America at the time to visit the newly elected president, Jimmy Carter. And they went to Washington. And he asked Yehuda Avner, who was the ambassador, the Israeli ambassador, to arrange a meeting for him with the Rebbe while he was there. At that point, Yehuda Avner already knew the Rebbe. He had met the Rebbe on behalf of Prime Minister Levi Eshkol and Yitzhak Rabin, who was the Israeli ambassador to the UN. And when they came, the Rebbe himself came out to greet Begin and escorted him to the entrance. And there were reporters there. And Avner relates that he recalls the reporter from the Village Voice, so some kind of news, a newspaper in Manhattan, I think, that they were throwing questions out to both the Rebbe and to Begin. And he asked Begin, he said, why do you seek out the Rebbe prior to meeting President Carter? So Begin said, it's my first meeting with the US president, and it's important for me to get the bracha of the Rebbe for its success. He has many insights and he has awesome knowledge. I can learn many things from him, and he is also an old friend. But why doesn't the Rebbe come to you as prime minister? Why do you go to the Rebbe? So Begin replied, he said, he's a great sage of Israel, he is a great leader himself. And actually, Avner relates that he heard Begin say that the Rebbe was the greatest leader of the 20th century. When the Rebbe was questioned by the reporters, Avner says the Rebbe answered very modestly. And he said, I greet Prime Minister Begin as a friend, but I am receiving his visit on behalf of the Lubavitch movement. After the meeting with President Carter, Avner came back to have a yechidus with the Rebbe. And he only shared a small part of the yechidus, and I'll share a bit of that with you. The Rebbe said to him, Reb Yehuda, imagine you are looking at a cupboard, and I tell you to open it, and you see there a candle. And I tell you that it's not a candle, but it's a lump of wax with a string inside. When does the wax and the wick become a candle? When one brings a flame to the wick, that is when the wax and wick fulfill the purpose for which they were created. And that is what I try to do, said the Rebbe, to help every man and woman fulfill the purpose for which they were created. Eish ze eish hatayra. The fire is the fire of the Torah, the Rebbe continued. And when one brings the flame to the wick, one ignites the soul. For the wick is the soul, and it gives life to the body, which is the wax. And then the body and the soul fulfill the purpose for which they were created, and that happens through the fire of Torah. Before he left, the Rebbe took hold of Avner's two hands to say goodbye, and Avner asked the Rebbe, he said, "Has the Rebbe lit my candle?" And the Rebbe answered, he said, "No, I have given you the match. Only you can light your own candle." So this story and these others remind us that the Rebbe continues to encourage us, to empower each and every one of us to do all we can, to light our own candle, to realize that the true nature of a Yid, the natural environment for a Jew, is the Geula environment. It's a Geula reality. And as soon as we realize this and begin to live in this mindset, and we make that paradigm shift into this Geula mode, we will not only experience the greatest and most incredible of all times, which is this tremendous closeness to Hashem that we're going to experience when Mashiach comes, but we will also have the great zchus to merit the entire world to have this most beautiful, harmonious, peaceful time.